I want to educate you on you. I want to empower you in times of adversity, and I want to equip you to heal yourself because you can. Welcome to season 1 of my podcast, Unshrinkable. Hi, I'm Emily Katz. My guests and I are here to help you find what works for you beyond traditional therapy and mainstream meds. Hello, everyone. I am very excited today to introduce our amazing guest, Beth Shahar. Beth is a contemporary artist, teacher, and healer who integrates the shamanic traditions of the Mexican curanderos into her healing practices. She is dedicated to helping others rediscover their inherent greatness through creative art workshops and healing sessions. Beth's work is deeply rooted in fostering love and personal growth. She is passionate about guiding individuals on their path to wellness and self-discovery. Her clients rave about her compassionate, gentle, and transformative approach, and our conversation today will explore the powerful intersection of creative art and healing. So get ready for an inspiring and intriguing discussion, I'm sure. So let's dive in. Hi, Beth. If you can, just introduce yourself a little bit and specifically how you got here doing what you do.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for that introduction. It was really, I hope I can live up to it in our podcast here. I have always loved art for as long as I can remember, but I never really allowed myself to do it because I think so many of us see creating art or creativity as something frivolous, as something unnecessary, and it's something that it's so difficult to make time for. And it's so important and so healing on any level, any art. Doesn't matter what you do. You could do stick figures or circles, whatever it is. It has a healing effect. And they've even through research discovered that this is for real. It's been proven with research that art literally heals. So how did I come to it? Like I said, I really never made time for it before, but I came to the idea of for healing when my son was killed in a car accident. And I was in Chicago at the time. I'm originally from Chicago, but I moved to Israel, was a little bit back and forth at one time. Now I'm only in Israel. But my son was killed in Chicago in a car accident instantly. It was my only child. And
I'm sorry.
thank you. I was, and the only thing I could do was lay in bed and get paints and a canvas, even though I wasn't really doing art before that, other than as a child, loving it. And I just painted, and it helped me in ways that I can't even explain. It actually connected me back to my son in ways that, again, I can't explain it in words, but I felt his presence through the artwork, through the painting, through the color. I had no idea how to paint. I just, whatever came up. That was a long time ago. That was in 1994. And then I attended a workshop in Chicago that was intuitive art. Like you didn't have to know anything. It was like just so wonderful. And that really is what got me on my path. That workshop that I went to, they just put paint out, they put paper on the wall, and they just said, go for it, whatever comes up. And then there was the beautiful process, which is what I use in my workshops today, witnessing what came up for you. And this is where the beauty is, where you start with a blank piece of paper. There's nothing on it. There's, no plan. You were able to bypass the thinking mind and like just paint from feeling, get those emotions out on the page. And then the witnessing, I love. There's lots of different ways of doing it, but you look at what you made, see what it says to you. If it says something, my favorite way of doing it is actually giving voice to what you created, be it a painting, be it collage, be it, you can give voice to a line or a color or a shape or an image. And it's like going into a whole different part of your subconscious. And it's very surprising what can come up when you do that. So that's how I like to I'm starting with the end.
You jumped to the end of the workshop. I'm still at the beginning, the intuitive art piece. So, okay,
Yeah,
you were drawn to, by the way, thank you for sharing. And
thank you.
I'm very curious. And so if I ask questions that you feel are uncomfortable, then just let me know, like as much as you feel comfortable. But
Yes.
I want to like backtracking to 1994. I'm very much a big believer in spirits and the spirit
Yeah.
world. And I just want to say the fact that you could feel your son's presence. I really believe that he was present and is present.
Yes.
I really, really do believe in that. And I just think it is, thank you for sharing that, because that is something very intimate and personal. And I just think it's a beautiful thing that you were open to that and that you allowed that in. I think
Yeah.
so many of us in this society and in this, in these times where we're kind of closed off to those kinds of possibilities and those kind of, ideas and concepts that there is a spirit world and that they can still be with us. And so I want to say thank you for sharing that. And I hope that anyone listening might have needed to hear that. And so you were drawn to the intuitive art, this intuitive art workshop. And what happened at that workshop that you were just like, this is it? Like, I want more of this.
I just want to say about what you were talking about, the spirit world and death. I think that if I could ever help anyone well, of course, you have to be in the right place to understand that when someone leaves their body, they're really never gone. I felt him through my painting when I was at the worst time in my life. And then I actually was fortunate enough to actually feel his presence telling me how to behave in a certain situation. Right. It doesn't happen a lot. So I've been fortunate to have had that happen from the spirit world a couple times with my son. He had a visit from my ex-father-in-law, which I don't know why or how, but near-death experience. I've had these experiences which have really helped me deal with the death of my son. But at the time when I went to the workshop, I wasn't feeling that I had him with me yet. And
Hi, Katz.
it was like my first experience with this amazing woman. Her name is Dana Block, and she's well known in the art therapy world, Dana Block. Although she's not doing art therapy right now. She created something that's called the Open Studio, and it's in Chicago. I went to it when it first opened. I was like at one time the only person there. And how did I get there? I was always searching through books to find answers, like spiritual seeking and to comfort myself after the death of my son. And I saw that she was in Chicago. I read her book. I was shocked. I said, okay, I have to go meet this woman. And I went to the workshop, and it was exactly what I needed. It was like a perfect fit. And like now, when I think about it, of course it was somehow like the universe has our back so much. But at that time, I was like, my God, I want to do this so bad. And that was back in 1994. I think probably a lot of your listeners, or some of them weren't even born yet, were babies. But I thought this is such a great way to bring people together. Like today, I know how important expression is. At the time, I just felt it. I could paint whatever I wanted. It didn't have to look good. It didn't have to make sense. There was no limit. It was just play. And I just felt so much better from it. And then we sat in a group, like the time when I wasn't by myself, and people were so open because of the witnessing part where we spoke about what we painted is saying to us, and how it had relevance for us for that moment, and no judgment. There was no judgment. It was just expression without judgment, and a very healing, containing type of space. It took me a long time to finally develop it for it's been a long, slow journey.
Well, we're going to get into that in a minute, but I do just want to like touch on a few things that you said straight away. It didn't have to look good. It was just play. And then you followed up on the, expression without judgment. And I feel that it is something that is such a challenge for us, especially women, perfectionism, you know, and to not judge. We are so judgmental of ourselves predominantly, like even more so than of others. And you know, why bother creating something if it's not going to be pretty? Why should I bother drawing something I don't know how to draw? And it's like, everyone can draw, just like everyone can sing. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has something to, it's not even something to say, but then that does kind of tie in with giving it a voice, right? Because there is something to say. We think that maybe we don't, or we don't know how, or there's no way to express, and it is just self-expression. And I've said this on previous episodes, but it comes up again and again with my clients. One of the 4 themes, like 4 pillars of self-development, one of them is conditions. And I did like a ad hoc content analysis of the industry, and like conditions is a big theme when you're coming to self-development. And there's I call it the big 5. Like across the board, there are these 5 conditions that we need. One is sleep, one is food, nutrition, good nutrition, like the right nutrition for our bodies, because everyone's different. Also sleep, it can differ, right? Movement, emotional support, and self-expression, play. And that is the one across the board that is the least, most underrated and neglected condition. Like when I ask I say like rate 1 to 10, or you know where you're at, it's very often 1. It's a 1 out of 10. This self-expression play piece. It's just not a priority, as you started the whole episode with. It's not a priority, right?
Right. It seems frivolous. I always felt that as adults, we need, I mean, I would love to in my workshops take the adult. I've always worked with kids, and I love working with adults now. I mean, people need help. Most of us, so many of us, and there's so much stress. And like, I just so often want to take a group out to the park to play, and then come back and do the artwork, you know, like some kind of really where you're very silly and you let go, and you know, like follow the leader kind of thing, where the person in front, like kids do this, you know, does a crazy movement as you're skipping along, and then everyone follows along, just to get the movement and the playfulness, and that can come up sitting in a group doing artwork, because you know, you have to let go of the seriousness and just play, because you know, it feels like kindergarten. Actually, I have the workshops. It'll be like we did in 1st grade or kindergarten. And yeah, that's the whole point of it. Just to have fun with it and let go of it having to look right. Like you said, the perfectionism and these conditioned beliefs of what art needs to look like.
Can I just say, sorry, for the listeners that are just listening, Beth is getting completely smothered by a cat right now, giving her the biggest hug I've ever seen a cat give. I've never seen a cat hug that much of, like, that's a hug. That's a full human embrace.
Yeah. His name is Hamoud,
Hamoud.
which I think is cute, translates to cute.
He is, but he's very genuinely hugging you.
Yes, yeah, he likes to hug. Yeah, he's amazing. He's very special. Yeah. And he's very, yeah, if I meditate, he has got to sit on top of me.
I feel that cats more so than any other animal, but I think most animals have a 6th sense, another sense. And I think cats are very spiritual. I've heard that they're very spiritual animals.
They really are. They just know, and they see things. Apparently they could see spirits, is what I've read.
Yeah. Well, you're getting lots of love right now, so that's good. So that was just for the benefit of those just listening and not watching the video. As you were saying, play. I have to say, by the way, I've worked with children. I love working with children in the past many times, and I think it is because I get to just play as well, and I get to kind of self-express in ways that I don't as an adult. And to be honest, we are all still children, adult suits. Like, the fact that physically we've aged doesn't mean we've matured. It doesn't mean we've emotionally matured either, like with experience and life experience. But I really do believe that, like, I was a woman child for all of my 20s. And I think that, you know, we do still have that inner child within us, and we really do neglect our inner child. I've recently started taking up dancing again, and my inner child is very happy with me. Very
I love that. I like, that's also, that's expressive, you know. It's interesting, but any kind of trauma, that we've all been through trauma, that's for sure. But it's not the incident that happened or the event as much as the emotions that get stuck inside of ourselves. And that's, and anything that will trigger those emotions again, it's as if it's happening all over. The feeling is like you go back into something that really isn't actually happening at that time, because those emotions have been not allowed to be expressed, not allowed to come out. And through dance, it could be cooking, it could be painting. I mean, for me, it's painting, or collage making, or anything expressive helps us to take those emotions out and put them on paper, or to move through them in a way where we're not so seriously taking ourselves so serious and trying to get through it, or trying to work it out, or like trying to analyze it, because it usually doesn't work to analyze it.
By the way, I'm a huge analyst and it has worked in my favor, I have to say. I very like intellectualizing things, but I very much understand this idea of balance, and that there is, the emotional world. I actually feel what you were talking about with the witnessing and giving voice to the art, that actually you're playing and you're self-expressing and you're tapping into that, like, non-judgmental, whatever comes out, and then you're like, okay, so then what is that saying? What is,
Right.
let's analyze it in a way.
So that's maybe like, letting the heart talk to the mind rather than the mind telling the heart. So that's actually what I meant. I just think, like, when we get too much into the mind about how and why something happened, we kind of stay stuck in the mind, and it's hard to move
100%.
through. That's what I meant by
No,
it.
100%. We try to control it, and then we don't actually let it through. And it's like, in order to open up and let it through, you've got to kind of sometimes switch off. I think meditation and mindfulness and all those practices are often to switch the mind off as much as possible and calm it, so you can let everything else kind of process and come up and do its thing.
It's beautiful that the meditation and a lot of the art processes helps the brain relax and, like, come into.
I'm sure it's very meditative. Like, when I paint, I go into a state of flow. I'm just focusing on the painting, and I lose track of time. I don't eat, I don't drink, I don't pee. I like forget everything, and like 6 hours goes by.
It's amazing.
I love it. I do just quickly want to touch on the shamanic traditions of the Mexican curanderos that I cannot pronounce. Can you please tell me a bit about that? Because I'm so intrigued.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an ancient tribe, Aztec tribe, and I don't think anybody actually knows where they are located. But what I know, my connection to them is basically the way that they explain life is that we are responsible for our lives. We are 100%. We create our own lives, and that's come out all over the place. All over the different healing or spiritual teachings. So we are responsible for our lives, as above, so below. And there's one more belief that I cannot remember what it is right now, but it's along the same lines. And they have light language, their own light language, which is amazing. It's completely energetic. It's sacred geometry and color. There's shapes and colors that go together, and everyone has this in their consciousness, but we don't see it. Like, everyone has an aura. Everyone has the sacred geometry and the different colors, or like the colors of the chakras. So I don't know how many, I know there's at least 3 levels of learning it. I've only learned level 1, and you need to be initiated into it, and it's fascinating, the way it's taught and the way you're initiated and how you can use it.
How did you come across it?
Because I have my healer. I've been working with a healer for a couple of years now, and he teaches it. So I know about it from him, through him. He's been initiated into it, like, I think at least 3 levels. So that's how I came across it. And he would create these grids for me And I was like, I don't get it. I don't get how it works. Because it's like you can't get it. It's totally energetic, but somehow it's there in the unseen. That's another thing I love is the unseen world, the unseen spiritual world. So that's like there's also a lot of rituals connected to this, the curandero way of being. So I don't do all of them, but I do some of them, like to hold sacred space whenever I have a workshop. I do a ritual for that, which is like really very simple and with an altar and working with energy. So it's like I love it.
Awesome. So where does that come into your work then,
Oh,
other than the rituals, for example?
okay. So it comes into my work just by me creating a sacred space, using the light language for that, and channeling, opening up
Ah.
myself to channel, so that, like you and I were talking earlier about, when I'm asked questions, then I can, like, rather than if I were to work with someone one-on-one, rather than me telling them, which I have, like, being a teacher for so many years, it's like, I'll tell you what you need to do, but I'll shut my mouth and listen, and then be able to respond to them so that they themselves can see what it is they need for their own healing, rather than me telling them, because we all know what we need more than anything. I believe that. But it takes a while to get there, to believe in that. And I've been working on it for, oh my God, practically my entire life.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely believe it's a lifelong pursuit, self-healing, self-actualizing, like all of it. And I very much
Yeah.
am starting to see now how self-development is actually spiritual development too. Like I'm very much seeing the
Yeah.
it's one and the same because we are all
It's
spiritual.
very, yeah, it's super connected.
Mhm.
It's just like whatever works best for any particular person, whatever that person feels most connected to or most aligned with, is what's going to be the most meaningful thing for them.
And I love that you found it through art and
Yeah.
self-expression through art. And that is a beautiful thing. And what is your I'd like to maybe go back to the witnessing piece and giving voice to
Yeah.
the lines or the splashes or the whatever it is that comes out, right? Like can you explain a little bit about what happens in that process or the witnessing of it, like as you see it?
Sure. Yeah. I can use for an example a painting that I've just started, like the process of the actual painting. Um, I'll use my own example. I also like to do photography, like whatever catches my eye, take a photo of it and use that same process in photography. Usually I'm an abstract painter, but the last painting was I saw this antique couch sitting out in a neglected backyard with the beautiful bougainvillea flowers, like just pouring over it. So I took a snapshot of it and I started painting it just in the beginning of the painting. And I painted the couch. This is also like a whole new thing for me. I normally don't paint things like that. And I did a witness with the couch just for fun for myself. And so the way I did it was you could write. Actually, I did it without writing this time, but writing is like a whole different part of the brain. And I said to the couch, I gave it voice and I said, tell me something. Tell me, why are you here? Why are you in my painting? What do you want to share with me? And the couch said to me, thank you for noticing me. I feel so neglected. I feel old and not useful anymore, and that I've been thrown out into the yard. I just get the chills even thinking that was like the last thing I expected, because and it also said thank you for making me beautiful again. So
Wow.
that's witnessing, like this whole part, basically, of yourself will come up that you're completely unaware of through an image, because everything has life, even an image on a painting, or you could look at a line on a painting and ask it the question and write it down, and maybe nothing will come up. Um, for me, something always comes up, something really deep. And that's why I love that process so much.
That's beautiful. Oh man, you get me all emotional. I love times where I've had that happen to me, but not with art, which is interesting because I might
Oh,
now want to try and do that as another like entryway, another
yeah.
access point. So for me, it's poetry. So I write in rhyme very easily, for
Oh,
some reason. And when I like sometimes I think about something brings it out and I found myself writing and like shit, like I did not know I felt that way. Like, and it just comes
right.
out, you know.
I also get that with writing. I love it. I love to write. But that's beautiful. That's like channeling, when you get a download like
Yeah.
that of poetry, that's totally channeling.
I
Yeah.
feel that the art though for you is like it's like a gateway into it as well. Like it allows you to then have something like reflect back to you to help you then channel or go in a way.
Exactly. And like also most of our memory is in images also. So like yeah, it's like if you're doing art, it could be the color or shape. I mean, it speaks to each one of us so differently. Like when you look at a piece of art or what one person will create, it's wow, it's amazing. And that's a great thing about collage because some people are so afraid to create. And I just think it's so sweet. And like to me, it's so precious because, after they go through like one workshop of collage, they can see, oh, I could do it. It's like it's not something that's only for certain people. And that's another thing we've been conditioned to believe.
100%. Okay, so yes, let's talk a bit about your workshops. What are they, what kind of workshops
Oh,
and what do they look like and
okay. Well, my workshops I love. They're very small because I do them at home. And I really want to give a lot of attention to everyone who comes. Um, and the way we do it is always starting out with a short meditation so that people get centered and then whatever the artwork is, it could be collage, it could be intuitive painting, and it could be neurographic art. We haven't talked about that, but that's very meditative. That art's a little less playful, more meditative.
okay.
Actually, something that really made me so happy was I had this really beautiful woman who is a lawyer with extreme ADHD. I don't know how she does it, but she said when she did the neurographic art, which is a specific process, she said she has never sat still for that long, for 2 full hours, focused on what she was doing.
Wow.
So yeah, that said so much to me about neurographic art is great for somebody that just is wants to make something look nice but has no idea how to get started or where to go with it. And it's super mindful and meditative. And it's an art form that reflects the neurons in our brain and in the cosmos. It looks like it. It also through research, they discovered that it actually makes the neurons in the brain light up because they're happy to recognize themselves on the paper.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's
But
beautiful.
what actually is it? Like you sit
Okay,
and you
what it actually is, there's a specific way that you make the near hold lines, and it's very structured. So they're kind of like if the roots of a tree or the branches of a tree,
Mhm.
and there's a specific way to make them. And then wherever there's intersections, like between lines, there's a process that's called rounding, so that
Okay.
there's no sharp intersection. And the idea of rounding the intersections is softening whatever conflict you're feeling within yourself. Because you start out with an issue when you're drawing the lines, and
Okay.
the lines are counterintuitive when you draw them, and then you think about softening whatever the conflict was by rounding out all the intersections, and that is where the mindfulness, well, also with the lines, but the rounding out, it's like you're meditating on paper. And then and the third part, like the basic neurographic art, the third part of it is coloring it in. So the coloring is the creative part of it, where you could color it in almost any way you like. You just like there's segments that are created through the art. I don't know if it's so clear just from hearing me talk. So you need to do at least 2 segments in the same color to express the fact that there's no boundaries for energy. Energy is it's boundaryless, and then it's good to leave a little bit of white space on your paper because that leaves room for the universe to come in and create some surprises.
I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah. I wonder how many people are going to go Google neurographic art now.
So there's like neurographic and neurographic art, and neurographic art is more of psychotherapy. It's much more intense. Neurographic art is using it on a lighter, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Lovely. Well, is there like a little exercise or a practice or a prompt or a tip or something that you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
I actually thought of this. I don't know, like if I'll be able to do it only through explaining, like this activity, which is totally expresses how art can be, how you can have self-discovery through an art process. So something really simple. And all you need is paper, pencil, or crayons, you know. And basically what you could do is on a piece of paper, like a regular notebook size paper, scribble, which is something we do not like to do because it's like, you know, even kids say, let's just scribble. So you do an open, loose scribble on the entire page for 30 seconds. So it's not too much. So once again, so you bypass your mind. You do a 30-second scribble, and then, you know, you take your page and you start turning it around in all directions and see if you can find a shape or a number or an image or a letter. It could be more, it could be one or more. And then you like go over it, you make it bold, you accentuate what you found there, and you could embellish it, you could color it, you could, you know, add onto it. And that's when you do the reflecting. Like you started out with a scribble with no meaning, and all of a sudden something came forth out of it. Take a step back and you look at it, and you could write about it. You know, what came up for me here? How does that relate to my life today? Anything going on in my life, or maybe something I heard, or maybe something I'm working on that I wasn't aware of. And you could also do like the witnessing process.
I love that. I did scribble when you said scribble, and when I look at it from the side, it's literally just scribbles, but I can see a figure of like a person like cradling a baby, like leaning over cradling a baby, and then yeah, I can keep looking into it and I can keep seeing other things, but that it jumped out at me immediately.
Beautiful. That's the whole idea, and that's such a reflection of something of yourself, and you can accentuate it. And
yes, and if it's motherhood and reparenting and self-care and all these different things. Yeah,
exactly. And there you made art. Not that you have a problem, but some people who feel they can't make art, it's like instant art for them.
I love it. I love it. Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, Beth, you are amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your time with us today. Really, really big thank you to everyone listening in. I hope you find our conversation as inspiring and helpful and interesting as I did. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. Your support helps reach more listeners and hopefully make a greater impact too. Maybe somewhere out there needed to hear something today. Maybe someone needed to get intrigued and inspired to go and try some intuitive art or some creative art or some self-expression. I would love to also hear from you. I'm sure Beth would as well. What was your biggest takeaway from today? And you can find Beth at any of the links that I put wherever the description is, whatever platform this is on. Stay curious, stay informed, stay tuned for more episodes coming our way. Beth, thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. My pleasure.
Lots of love, everyone.